Welcome to Just Say This, the place to get all the help you need for the birds and bees talks. I'm your host, Amy Lang. Just a quick reminder, this show is for grown-ups because I'll be swearing. There'll be lots of swears, and then I'll also be talking about grown-up sex. I can guarantee that your kids do not want to listen to this, and they really don't want to listen to it with you. You've been warned. Do you have a question for me? Please give me a call. The phone number is 206-926-1522, 206-926-1522, and I will answer on the show. And if you have a funny sex talk story, please call in those as well, 206-926-1522. Thanks. Hello, I am in a much better space now. I don't know what was going on. I guess it was August and slogging and all kinds of, just stuff. Okay, stranger danger. Jesus Christ. We are never going to escape this. The thing that got me rolling about the stranger danger issues, which is not an issue, were the articles about parents giving their kids, their 5-year-olds, Apple Watches. A, yay you, what a place of privilege to be able to afford to do that. And B, what 5-year-old needs, mind you, I want you to hear that word, needs an Apple Watch. I don't get it. 5-year-olds, their lives right now, especially now, are so contained. Most of them can't go anywhere or do anything without their parent or another adult around, just in general, especially now. Children are never, hardly ever, unless you are lucky and live in a community where this is easy for you to do, 5-year-olds aren't given free range. There's always an adult around. There's always a human with some kind of, phone attached to their body that can help your kid get help if they need it. Anyway, I don't understand this. I don't understand why you would track your child on your phone. I don't understand a lot of stuff. We didn't do that with Milo. Well, we did it once. I can't remember what he did, but the consequence was that we tracked him on his phone. I tracked him. I lasted 3 days. I think he was 16. It made me crazy. It made me paranoid. I didn't know what the fuck he was doing or where he was before. And then I knew where he was, and it made me nuts. So we stopped doing that. Anyway, I don't think that's necessary. Everybody thinks differently. Most folks are tracking their children and their spouses, which gross. Anyway, deep breath. That just all brought me to stranger danger. Here's the thing. It is not a thing. Strangers are not going to mess with your kids. 94% of the time, the person that molests a child, sexually abuses a child, is known to them and the family. I know we've been here before, but I just got all hot and bothered about this. They are known. It's a coach, right? Larry Nassar. It's a sibling sometimes, an older sibling, often babysitter, teacher, priest, nun apparently. You name it, they're related to the family in some way. They have a connection with the family in some way, obviously parents. So that's the first thing I'd like you to take away, which is worse. The person that's going to mess with your kid is someone you know, like, and trust usually. These people, they are friendly, kind, good, helpful. They show up in their communities. Everybody loves them. And then they're awful. They're fuckers. So that's the first little piece of this. Oftentimes when someone is like this and is preying on your child, they will prey on you first. They'll groom you so they can get access to your child. Most of these folks do not look like a creepster. They just don't. And if somebody in your life looks and feels like a creepster, they probably are. Anywho, back to the stranger danger thing. I have no idea why this happened, why we got so focused on that. I think it was maybe when they used to put kids' pictures on milk cartons and the kids had been abducted, and sometimes I don't know what happened. Anyway, so here's the deal. When you teach your kids to be afraid of strangers, you're teaching them to be afraid of help. So if your child, heaven forfend, is not being tracked by you and is not wearing their $250 watch, and is out and about and they get lost or they hurt themselves or something happens, If you tell them that strangers are going to hurt them, then they are not going to ask for help from someone. I know that if a child came up to you and said, hey, I need my mom, I don't have a phone, or I hurt myself, you would not say to that child, don't talk to me, I'm a stranger, you need to step away from me. You would never do that. 99% of humanity would never do that. So please quit doing things with your children, like not letting them chat with somebody in the grocery store line, but like not letting them go roll around the grocery store. I'm all about the grocery store and letting kids practice their freedom there. Like not letting them go get you the bread or go get you the eggs and that kind of thing. You're not helping them. You're teaching them to be reliant on you. You're teaching them that they don't have good sense and aren't safe in the world. And this is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Now, one thing I will say about this is that you should be teaching your children to trust their guts. And so you should be demonstrating trusting your gut. So we've all been there. We've all been walking down the street or, back to the grocery store, and there is a person that for whatever reason gives you that uncomfortable uh-oh feeling. My friend Christy Keating from Savvy Parents, Safe Kids, she talks about this uh-oh feeling. And we know it, right? You're like, ugh. Uh-oh, this person, it's usually a guy, frankly, that doesn't feel right to you. Acknowledge that in front of your kids and just say, I'm just having a funny uh-oh feeling from that person. I don't feel comfortable, so let's go over here. Let's move away from them. And you politely move away from them. Sometimes it's really obvious. They're drunk, they're drugging, they're creepy in other ways. So sorry, that just sounded like terrible. They're drunk or they're druggy. There's something up with them. They're mentally ill, and you can tell. You can still say that to them. Ooh, I'm having this uh-oh feeling about this person. You may have the uh-oh feeling about someone in your life. If someone in your life molested you or sexually abused you, they are not safe. You should have a terminal uh-oh feeling about that person. Those folks offend 1,000,000 times, not 1,000,000, on average 200 times before they're caught. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Back to strangers. Here's what you can do with your kids. Do that. Be mindful, right? Like, I'm a white chick. Y'all know that. Or maybe you don't know that. No, you know that. And I really need to mind my racism. So if I see a black person coming towards me and I need to check, am I having the uh-oh feeling because I'm having the uh-oh feeling, or am I pulling some racist bullshit? So you got to pay attention to that. And the last thing is this. Coach your kids and tell them that if they get lost or separated from you, that if they need to find a mom with kids or a dad with kids, the reason it's a mom or dad with kids is because they know who that is. They're easily, readily identifiable. Telling them to find a police officer or a security guard, they have to think about that. But mom with kid, dad with kids, grandma, those are people that granddad, those are people they can identify. So coach them to do that. And then when you're in the grocery store, you can say, hey, okay, let's pretend you got separated from me. Who do you see that you could talk to for help? And they'll say, those people. And you'll say, yes. And then, like I said, if you see a child that is wandering aimlessly somewhere and they look distressed, I didn't say this. If a child ever comes to you and says, I need help, then you're going to say yes, right? Right. Also, if you ever see a child wandering around and they look a little distressed, it is perfectly fine for you to get down low and say, hey, do you need some help? You look a little lost. All right, where's your parent or where's your caregiver? Do you know where they are? And then see what they do. Don't touch them, just be with them. I saw a dad with a child, and the child was 2 or 3, very young, and they were walking down the street, and he was on the phone, and he was letting this kid just fly ahead of him to the point that if they got in the street, he would not have been able to protect the kid. So, being me, I showed up. I watched that child. I paid attention to that child, and I made myself very obvious to the parent. And he kind of got off the phone and got his shit together. But even doing something like that, and I don't know if you can hear him, but Theo is meowing like he's dying in the background. So that is my stranger danger rant. Theo is saying, yes, Amy, you are right. I don't know if you can hear him. You're right. And so practice with your kids, trusting their guts. There is a book called Protecting the Gift. I'm sure I've talked about it before. It's older, but it's great about how to be safe out and about in the world. And if you think, I don't know, like back to the watch thing, there's really no good reason. There's no good reason. And, spend that $250 getting a massage or something. That makes more sense to me. Alrighty, but I know you're going to do what you're going to do, and everybody parents differently, but I would consider your motivation for tracking your kids and also for giving them really expensive playthings. All right, I feel like the cat has just made a situation with this little rant of mine. All right, I'm all done now. All right, on to this super wonderful mom and her porn talk. It was just, I'm very impressed, so please take notes.
Oh, hi, Amy. I am leaving. I hope it's not too long, but I just wrote everything down because I actually sent it to some parent friends because I thought it could be helpful. But I have a sex talk story for you. One of my kids, I have two 14-year-olds, two 14-year-old boys, and one of them discovered internet porn. I know, crazy, right? And, you know, my husband and I, we speak very openly about all kinds of sex stuff, so he obviously knew it existed. And I imagine maybe he had seen some sexy images on the internet before, but I don't think he'd ever seen explicit video. Anyway, for a couple of weeks, he found himself looking at it pretty regularly. And intellectually, I knew that this would come up at some point, but I was definitely surprised when it did, mostly because, like I said, we have occasional, very brief conversations about this kind of stuff, and for the most part, he has very limited access to tech. His phone only has a web browser on for 30 minutes a day. Inappropriate sites are blocked. He generally doesn't have his phone in his room for very long, if at all, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But one thing I just realized through this whole experience was that if your kid has access to tech, then they have access to porn. Now, obviously, I knew that intellectually, but I learned it on a whole new level. It made me also realize that no matter how thorough you think you are, you know, with thoughtful conversations, parental controls, limited tech, when a kid is curious, they will find what they are looking for, and way more than they bargained for in some cases. And I've always thought about giving him some kind of material like Playboy or Playgirl from the 70s, The Joy of Sex, the Kama Sutra, but I never got around to it. One of the things that I found surprising was that the video game website Steam, apparently there's porn on it, and that's where he found it. When I first saw this, or when I first saw what he was looking at, instead of freaking the fuck out on him, which obviously would be a bad idea, I rage-typed an email to Common Sense Media because they give it a 13+ rating. And after I calmed down, I did some breathing exercises. I brought it up with him. Basically, my husband was out of town for 2 weeks at the time, so we both decided that I would handle it. So at first when I brought it up, I think he was thinking I was just going to talk to him about masturbating, which he was pretty comfortable with considering. But then when I brought up the porn part, that's when he looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole. I told him that we'll get through this conversation and asked him if I could give him a hug, which he accepted. And then I just read through a bunch of notes I had typed in my phone, and he was actually impressed by how much thought I had put into it. He listened and reflected, and it was over. We did it. At the end, he said he was going to process what we talked about. I just said, hey, I got to check in with you about something. This might feel embarrassing, but I promise it will only take 10 minutes. But if you want to talk further, I'm happy to. I said, I've noticed that you're shutting your door a lot, and since you're 14, I'm guessing you might be masturbating, which is fantastic. High five. I said, I saw porn on your phone yesterday. It makes sense that you're curious about sex, and you might want to find things that are arousing. I have some important things to tell you, and I hope you'll understand. There are lots of ways to satisfy curiosity and to give yourself pleasure. The internet is not one of them. That's why it's important to find other ways to feel sexual. Internet porn isn't a helpful source, and it can actually be harmful. It's overwhelming and not going to give you what you're looking for. There are lots of scary things online, and you could end up in a dark rabbit hole. You might be curious about something, but end up with way more than you wanted. It can be upsetting and confusing because your body might react one way by feeling aroused, but your mind and your heart could react differently. Internet porn has nothing to do with sex. It's people portraying sex, lots of it violent, and many of them are forced into the industry and are trauma abuse survivors. It's a way for companies to make money. The predatory algorithms don't have your best at heart, and they just want clicks. It's entertainment that some adults watch, but it can even be problematic for them. But it's not for young people who are just beginning to understand understand their sexuality and whose brains haven't fully developed. It distorts what bodies look like and shows unrealistic standards, which might lead you to think that's what people should look like to be sexy. It can sometimes cause problems with desensitization, inability to get an erection, or premature ejaculation. Brain development, dopamine. It can flood your brain with dopamine and become addictive. Find other, more healthy ways to get your dopamine. This is not what your sex life will look like if and when you decide you want to have sex. You'll want it to be a consensual, connected, and intimate experience. Internet porn is the opposite of that. Here's the good news. There are plenty of ways to feel sexual and be aroused that don't have the downsides of internet porn. Nuance, imagination, anticipation, finding small everyday things that are sexy or sensual. Maya from the show Pen 15, which is a show that we have watched together and loved, had photos of peaches and dunes in her masturbation folder. He also told me once recently about how he really loves like a certain kind of music, like lyrics, and how they aren't obvious, like more like pop music, and that you love trying to figure out, he loves trying to figure out or interpret them in his own way, and that more obvious lyrics aren't as interesting in the same way. And so I was trying to make a connection with him about what he was talking about in terms of like subtlety and nuance, and internet porn versus real human connection and interaction. Anyway, trying to meet him where he was. I said, if it's helpful, Dad can help find things for you, like material for you. Also, I got you a book that you can check out if you want. I'll leave it in your room behind your bedside table. And I got him the updated version of The Joy of Sex, and I just left it behind his bedside table, and I don't know if he's looked at it. I don't know anything, but I do know that he was totally open and receptive, and I think obviously mortified and embarrassed, but I think it was a very open and honest and good conversation, and I think that he's pretty good about it from what I could tell and the way he reacted. Anyway, thank you for everything that you do. You are fantastic. Thank you.
And don't forget, you're invited to come to my free Sex Talks with Tweens book launch party on October 18th. I'm going to be giving away books, my book, other people's books. It should be super fun. I would love, love, love to see you there. And the link is in the show notes. So yeah, please invite some friends. It will be a joyful and fun occasion. That's it for this week. Thanks to everyone who's been calling in. The number's 206-926-1522, so please leave me a message if you have a question or a tale from the trenches. And thank you to Melanie Smith, my producer, and to Rolf, who wrote the Birds and Bees and Kids theme song.